Hey guys, welcome to the guide. In this episode, we're going to be going over the Brewster F2A Buffalo, which was a mid-30s design for the U.S. Navy. It was supposed to be the Navy's first carrier-based monoplane fighter that could reach a top speed of over 300 miles per hour. Unfortunately, it turned out to be kind of crap at the job, and was quickly replaced by the Grumman F4F Wildcat, which was also a pretty craptacular plane, and is remembered as one of the worst planes of the start of World War II for the United States. So, that's not a good start for the Buffalo, but let's continue on. It's a pretty unknown airplane. I'll be honest, it was pretty much off my radar before I played War Thunder, this game right here. So I had to go back and do some fact checking. General specs for it is it had a 35-foot wingspan and was 25 feet long. And the F2A-2, the second variant of it, the second production line of it, was powered by a 1200 horsepower radial engine that was built by the Wright Corporation. Engine was called the Cyclone because apparently they were proud of it. It had a top speed of 325 miles per hour at 16,000 feet and had a range of 1,015 miles, which is pretty respectable for the miles. Yeah. It was carrier based, so it was expected to have some pretty good range. Navy kind of put some emphasis on planes with range because, you know, you're kind of out in the middle of the ocean. It was armed with 3 50 caliber machine guns and 1 30 caliber machine gun in the nose, which I don't understand why they just didn't go with 4 50 calibers and dropped the 30 cal, but for some reason they threw 1 30 cal in there. Design choice that escapes me. Alright, so its first flight was in late 1937, and the Navy first launched the project in 1936. So it took about a year in development. The first production aircraft were delivered to the USS Saratoga on June 11th, 1939. Only 11 were delivered, and by that point the Navy was already on bigger, better things, namely the Wildcat, because they had decided that they really weren't that interested in it. And they had okayed it to be exported to other countries. We'll get that to a bit. We'll get to that in a minute. First thing first is the U.S. service. It did see one battle in World War II, and that would be the Battle of Midway, where the VMF 221st Marine Corps Squadron flew it in the Battle of Midway on June 5th, 1945. Or 42, excuse me. Way off. 1942. 25 Buffaloes took off and only 7 came back. So if that's an indication of how bad this plane was. And they were shot down by Japanese Zeros, obviously, because, you know, at the beginning of World War II, the Zero shot everything down. Yeah, that was all. That was it. That's the only combat it saw in World War II for the Americans. Pretty much the Navy saw it, didn't like it, and immediately handed it over to the Marine Corps, because everything the Navy doesn't really want always ends up in the Marine Corps. It did see service with other countries. Finland got 43 of them, and the ones that the Finns bought were used against the Soviet Union, which I imagine it did alright over there, because the Soviet Union didn't exactly have very good planes at the beginning of World War II. So I imagine it was decent at fighting against the Soviet Union at the beginning of the war. Great Britain ordered 170 of them and immediately sent them to the Pacific because they deemed them not fit for the European theater. Belgium got 40 of them, but 28 of them ended up in Great Britain's hands because, well, Belgium got knocked out of the war pretty fast. And the Dutch Indies got 72. By the end of it, 507 Brewsters were produced by the Brewster company. I'm pretty sure that has to be the company that made it. And they didn't really last very long. I mean, it was kind of like they came, they saw, and they got conquered. It was not a very popular design. I mean, if the Grumman Wildcat was deemed to be a better plane than it, that is not saying anything good. Because the Wildcat sucked. It was a horrible plane. The United States Navy's major problem with it was it had poor landing gear. So taking off of carriers, it was not an ideal plane for that at all. That was one of theirs. And it didn't have enough armor plating for the Navy. So, yeah, the Navy just didn't like it at all. And by the third version, the Brewster company had fixed the problems, but the increased weight only made the plane just handle horribly. So by the time the third edition came out, it was just a garbage plane, according to the Navy. But in the game, War Thunder, it's one of the best starting planes in the game. Like, I'm missing half of a wing here, and it's still flying. So, I mean, I don't know. In the game, it's an awesome plane at the beginning of the game. But in real life, apparently, it was not very good. But, and this is not any skill on my flying part, because this game is super arcadey. And pretty much you kind of just tell the plane where you want it to go, and the plane takes you there. But yeah, in real life, sucked. In this video game, pretty awesome. Alright, thanks for watching.